Okay, in this video we're going to practice manually graphing equations and seeing where they intersect. You're definitely going to need to use a ruler because you want to be as precise as possible. I'm going to do with you number 3 and number 8, and then you need to try to do the rest. Alright, the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and graph this equation because it's already in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to start with positive 1. That'll be my first point. And then my slope is 2, which is 2 over 1, which means I'm going to rise 2 and run 1. So run 1, rise 2. And that's my second point. I wish I had a line tool on this this software, but I don't, so I have to freehand lines so this time a lot better. The next equation, I'm going to have to either use the x and y intercepts, or I'm going to have to change it into slope-intercept form. It doesn't matter to me which one I do. I think I'm going to go ahead and use the x and y intercepts. So I'm going to create two different equations. Negative 2x equals negative 9, and 3y equals negative 9. Oops, not 19. Negative 9. And so on the first one, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. And these 2's go away, and I'm left with x equals, well, 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. And negative 9 divided by negative 2 is 4.5. So I'm going to say 4.5. In the next equation, I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. These 3's go away, and I'm left with y equals negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. So here are my 2 points. X equals 4.5. So I'm going to go over 4 and then halfway in between 4 and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then halfway, probably right there. And then the y is negative 3. So 1, 2, 3. So there's my second point. And now I'm going to try to connect those. And I'm really having a hard time deciding on where they're going to cross over. My lines are not straight. So let me graph it with a graphing calculator, and I'll see where they cross over. When I graph them using a graphing calculator, it tells me that they cross over at negative 3, negative 5. So I'm going to go back over here. Negative 3, negative 5 would be right here on my graph. So the one that's not graphed correctly is the first one that I did, because the second one does cross over there. So let's try, I'm going to go ahead and make another point. I would have to go over 1 and down 2, so this would be another point right here. So I'll try to connect those a little better. Well, it's a rough line, but like I said, you're going to actually have it easier because you're going to be able to use a ruler. And if you have any trouble, make sure you raise your hand and ask me, and I'll help you. But again, we should always check ourselves if we're not sure, and we have tools to use to check ourselves. So there's no reason to not get right answers. The world is pretty much at our fingertips. We just need to reach out and use those. Another way to check ourselves is with the actual paper. Notice that negative 3, negative 5 is one of the solutions. Alright, let's go ahead and try 8. I think I'm not sure, but we might have to change our scale on our grid. So let's see what happens. Alright, let's go ahead and make, let's write this in slope-intercept form. So the first thing that I'm going to do is add 100 and move the 100 over. So it won't be here anymore. And I'm going to get 30x plus 50y equals 100. Then I'm going to move the 30x over. I'm going to move it over here, and it's going to become a negative 30x. So I'm going to get 50y equals negative 30x plus 100, because 100 is going to stay positive. We're not changing, we're not moving 100 anymore. Now that I'm to this point, now I have to divide everything by 50. So I divide this by 50, and by 50. So it looks like it's actually going to reduce pretty good. I'm going to give myself some space. Alright, the first thing that we should do is cancel out these 50s. They're not there anymore. So we have y equals. The next thing that I'm going to do is cross out my zeros. Whenever there's a 0 on the top and a 0 on the bottom, you can just cross them out as if they go away, because what you're really doing is dividing both top and bottom by 10. So I'm going to get negative 3/5 x. And then 100 divided by 50 is 2, or I could cross out the zeros and then take 10 divided by 5, which is still 2. So we've simplified that equation very much. It's definitely a smaller numbers and are going to be easier to graph. Let's do the second equation. Alright, here's our second equation. Again, the first thing that I'm going to do is move this 30 over. And it's not going to be here anymore. And I'm going to get 3x minus 15y equals 30. Then I'm going to subtract my 3x, subtract my 3x. Notice again that I put it off to the side because I can't take 3x from 30. One of them is a number and the other is a variable. And they're not like terms. Like 30 is a number and negative 3x is an x. They wouldn't go together anyway. So now I have negative 15y equals negative 3x plus 30. So hopefully by now you're realizing that we have to divide everything by negative 15. So we're going to go through and divide all of my numbers by negative 15. And I'm going to give myself more space. Okay, so the 15s are canceled, and I just get y. And I got negative 3 over negative 15. If you put that in your calculator and let it reduce it, which if you don't know how to do that, ask me and I'll show you how to. Or you can reduce it in your head. 3 goes into 15 5 times, so this is going to reduce to 1/5 x. And then 30 divided by negative 15 is going to be negative 2. So our equation is y equals 1/5 x minus 2. Again, much smaller numbers, much easier to graph. So I'm going to rewrite both equations on the place where we're going to graph, and we'll see if maybe we'll get lucky this time and I'll actually be able to draw a straight line and see where they intersect. Okay, so our first equation turned into y equals negative 3/5 x plus 2. So the plus 2, we're going to go up 2 on the graph and put our first point. The negative 3/5 means that we are going to run 5 and fall 3, because the negative means fall, where positive means rise. So let's run 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we fall 3. 1, 2, 3. So this is our next point. I'm going to erase all the other dots so we don't get confused. And okay, the next line is y equals 1/5 minus 2. So we're going to go down 2 from the center. So that'll be right here, negative 2. And then 1/5 is, run 5 and rise 1. So we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and then we run 1. And hey, this is actually good news for us because they're going to cross over on one of our points. So this is the solution right here. And we'll check ourselves just to make sure. But that is, let's see where we are. We're going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So x is 5, and then down 1, so that means negative 1. So this point is 5, negative 1. So that's the solution. So let's see if it's on our page. 5, negative 1. There it is. Yep. So some of them will be easy, and some of them will be challenging. But always check yourself with the Desmos calculator, and do your best to graph them manually. Use a ruler, and be precise. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, raise your hand when you're done.